All right, everyone, so this is 6.16.3 review 2 in preparation for your quiz tomorrow. So on number 1 and 2, you want to find one positive and one negative coterminal angle. If it's in degrees, you're going to add or subtract 360. So if we add 360 degrees here, we're going to get 640 degrees. So that will be your positive coterminal angle. And then if you do 280 minus 360, that's going to give you negative 80 degrees. So that'll be your negative coterminal angle. Same thing for number 2. If you have negative 405, it's kind of a big negative one, so I'm going to go and add 360 and see if it makes it smaller. And if you're having a hard time adding that, just go 405 minus 360, and you know the answer is going to be negative because the 405 is the bigger one and it's negative. So if you subtract that, that's 5. 10 minus 6 is 4, so it's going to be 45 degrees, but it's going to be negative. So you have negative 45 degrees, okay? But I want a positive coterminal angle again. So if I want to get a positive one, I'm going to need to add 360 again. So I'll take this negative 45 degrees and add 360 to it again. And that's going to be giving me positive 315. Okay, if you want to do the same thing in radians, you add and subtract 2 pi. So to this one, I'm going to add 2 pi over 1. Find a common denominator, which is 9. So if I multiply that by 9, I'm going to end up getting 2 pi over 9 plus 18 pi over 9, which gives me 20 pi over 9, kind of a big angle there. Okay, if I want to get a negative one, I'm going to do the same thing and take 2 pi over 9. I'm going to subtract 2 pi. Now, we already kind of saw that 2 pi and 18 pi over 9 were the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 18 pi over 9 since I already have that common denominator. And that's going to give me negative 16 pi over 9. All right, same thing for number 4. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 pi. Find a common denominator, which is 6. So multiply top and bottom by 6. And that gives me negative 11 pi over 6 plus 12 pi over 6. Which is 1 pi over 6. So there's your positive coterminal angle. To get a negative one, I'm going to go and subtract. So I'm going to have negative 11 pi over 6 minus 2 pi. But again, we just saw that if I want that common denominator with the 6, 2 pi is really equal to 12 pi over 6. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12 pi over 6 from that. And that's going to give me negative 23 pi over 6. Okay, so there's the first 2 questions on your quiz tomorrow. 1 in degrees, 1 in radians. Now, to convert from radians to degrees, we want to multiply by 180 over pi. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to multiply by 180 divided by pi. Notice that the pi's are going to cancel each other out. So you're going to have negative 7 times 180 all over 4. Now, again, please don't multiply the negative 7 and the 180. Instead of 4 goes into 180 45 times. And then if you multiply 45 times 7, if you need to do that on the side, 45 times 7, that's 35, carry the 3, 28, 31. So it's going to be negative 315 degrees. Okay? Do the same thing for number 6. I want to change that to degrees, so I'm going to multiply by 180 over pi. The pi's cancel out, so now I have 11 times 180 all over 30. Again, please do not multiply 11 times 180. Instead of see that 30 goes into 180 6 times. 6 times 30 is 180. And so that's just going to give us a nice 66 degrees. Okay, so kind of know those tricks, know the mental math because there's no calculator tomorrow. Okay, converting from degrees to radians, I want to multiply by pi over 180. So on the top there, that's going to give me 150 pi. On the bottom, I have a 180. Notice that I can get rid of these zeros by dividing by 10. And then if I divide both of these by 3, 15 divided by 3 is 5 pi. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So that's a 5 pi over 6. And then if I look at 8, again, multiply by pi over 180. Don't let that negative mess with you. If it starts with a negative, it's just going to end up negative. So on the top, I have negative 240 pi over 180. The zeros, again, go away by dividing by 10. And then the biggest number that goes into 24 and 18 is 6. So I'm going to end up getting negative 4 pi over 3. Okay? So there's the next 2 questions. One converting to degrees, one converting to radians. Okay, I believe we did this one in class, but I'll just do it again. This one's going to tell you what quadrant it's in. So this one, I believe we want it in quadrant 1. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a triangle in quadrant 1. Sorry about that. That's not a very good X and Y axis, but it's okay. Remember, you need to know how you draw your triangles. If you're in quadrant 1, you're going to start at the center there, kick out your hypotenuse, and then go straight down to the X axis. Here's your angle theta. Now we know that sine means opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite side is 1, the hypotenuse is 3. And to get that missing side, we can just do Pythagorean theorem by going a squared plus 1 squared equals 3 squared. So that gives me a squared plus 1 equals 9, which means that a squared equals 8. And if I take the square root of both sides, I'm going to get 2 square root of, not 8, sorry, 2 square roots of 2. And I think we did this in class today, so I'm going a little bit quicker through it. Okay, now how do I find the cosine of theta? Remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent side here is the 2 rad 2, the hypotenuse is the 3. So this is going to be 2 rad 2 over 3. And B, tangent of theta, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So maybe a different color here. The opposite side is 1, the adjacent side is 2 rad 2. So you're going to have 1 over 2 rad 2. And you guys, for these, I don't care if you rationalize, so you can leave it like that. Okay? All right. Next one, find the exact value of the 6 trig functions. Okay, so I have this point 12, 16. Let's plot it. Let's see if we can make that a little bit nicer looking. There we go. Okay, so if I were to plot 12, 16, that means I would go out 12 and I would go up 16. So I would end up somewhere right over here. And if I wanted to make a triangle out of that, I would connect down to the 0, 0, right? And then I would connect down to the x-axis, and then there's your 90-degree angle. Now, how do I label this triangle? Well, I know the distance from here to here is 12, and I know the distance from here to here is 16, because I went over 12 and up 16. Going to erase these lines so they're not in the way. Okay, and then how do I find the third side, the hypotenuse there? I just use Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to go 12 squared plus 16 squared equals c squared. So that's 144 plus 256 equals c squared. So we get 400 equals c squared. If I take the square root of both sides, I'm going to get that c equals 20. Now remember, your angle's always closest to the origin. And then let's answer the question. So I want all 6 trig functions. So sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is 16 over 20. And hey, for simplicity's sake, I'm just not going to simplify. Is that okay? I'm kind of tired. Don't really feel like doing that. Okay, cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if we look at that, it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's going to be 12 over 20. And then tangent of theta is going to be opposite over adjacent, so opposite over adjacent. So we're going to have 16 over 12. Now, how do I get their cofunctions? So the sine of theta is a flip of cosecant of theta. So I flip that, I get 20 over 16. Cosine and secant go together. So if I flip that, I get 20 over 12. And tangent and cotangent go together, so it's going to be 12 over 16. And you guys, on the quiz tomorrow, I'm not going to ask for all 6 trig functions. I may just like pick 1 or 2, okay, just to make it faster. Okay, number 11. Same idea. I'm at -5, -12. Okay, so this time, I'm going to be in a different quadrant here. So if I want to get to -5, -12, I'm going to go left 5, and I'm going to go down 12. Notice how I'm not like actually doing 5 tick marks. I just kind of need to get into the right quadrant. So I'm at -5, -12. Okay, connect to the origin and then connect that last leg to the x-axis. Okay, if you draw your triangle wrong, you're going to get the whole thing wrong, so careful. Okay, here's your theta. So let's label these sides. So I went left 5, so it's -5. Then I went down 12, so it's -12. This is a 5, 12, 13 triangle. Remember, if you want to help yourself for tomorrow, know that this is a triplet, 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, and 8, 15, 17. Okay, those are all really, really good triplets that you should probably know. Okay, so now we can answer all the questions. So sine of theta, again, is opposite over hypotenuse. So I've got opposite over hypotenuse. That would be -12 over 13. And so I know right off the bat that cosecant of theta is a negative 13 over 12. It's just the flip of it. Okay, cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I have adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's negative 5 over 13. And the flip of that is secant. So that's going to be negative 13 over 5. And then I got tangent of theta, which is opposite over adjacent. So if I do that one maybe in pink, opposite over adjacent, I'm going to get negative 12 over negative 5, which is positive 12 over 5. So we just cancel those. And then I know cotangent is going to be the flip of that, which is 5 over 12. Okay? All right, probably the trickiest question on there, number 12. Okay, tangent of theta is a negative 12 fifths. Sine of theta is greater than 0. Find sine of theta. Okay, so on this one, a little bit trickier. Okay, we need to figure out what quadrant we're in, and I have no idea. So I know that all students take calculus, right? It tells me that tangent's negative, okay? So I know that tangent is not negative in quadrant 1, and it's not negative in quadrant 3. So that leaves me with 2 quadrants left over. I also know that sine is greater than 0, which means that sine is positive. Sine is not positive in quadrant 4. Sine is positive in quadrant 2. There's the quadrant I want to be in. So I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a triangle in quadrant 2. My 90, there's my theta, and it tells me that the tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite side is 12, the adjacent side is 5. This is a 5, 12, 13, but who gets the negative? It's not the 12, right? It's actually the 5. Can't tell just by looking at the fraction. I have to actually draw it out. Okay, now it says find the sine of theta. Well, the sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse, so if I do that, I'm going to have opposite over hypotenuse, so it's going to be 12 over 13. Okay. All right. Now these guys, a little bit harder. Okay. So I need to ask myself 2 questions here. I need to know the reference angle, and then I need to know what quadrant I'm in. Okay. So 5 pi over 3, and let me just remind you guys, the pi over 3s goes like this. 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. So I am in quadrant 4. Okay. So this is a quadrant 4 angle. And the reference angle is pi over 3. So my reference angle is pi over 3. Now the other issue I have is this cosecant. I don't like that. I know cosecant is the flip of sine of 5 pi over 3. So basically, I want to find the sine of 5 pi over 3, knowing that its reference angle is pi over 3, and then I am in quadrant 4. Okay, so 2 ways that you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to look at what is the sine of pi over 3. That you're going to get right from your chart. If you look at your chart, the sine of pi over 3 is the square root of 3 over 2. And you know that sine in quadrant 4, because of all students take calculus, only cosine is positive there, which means sine is negative in there. So it's going to be negative radical 3 over 2. But don't forget, we still have to flip it. So right off the bat, it started with a really hard one, right? If I flip this, I'm going to get negative 2 over the square root of 3. Okay? Now, another way you could have done it, if you like drawing the triangle out instead, you could have done this. I know that I'm in quadrant 4, right? I know that my reference angle is pi over 3, which is a 60-degree angle. That means this one's a 30. And then remember, across from the 30 is a 1. Across from the 60 is a radical 3. Across from the 90 is a 2. And the radical 3 is going to be negative. Now, look, I want to find the sine of 5 pi over 3. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The flip of that is hypotenuse over opposite. Okay, so either way, if you like drawing the triangle, draw the triangle, or you can use a chart. I don't care. All right, tangent of negative 240. Let's look at this guy. When they give it to you in degrees, sketch it out. That will be your work for that problem, okay? So negative, I'm going in the opposite direction. So I'm at negative 90, negative 180, negative 240 is somewhere right here. Now remember your reference angle. So, sorry, right off the bat, I know that I am in quadrant 2, right? That's where I landed, so that's good news. Okay, but now I need to find out what my reference angle is. Remember, that's formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. And that always forms 2 angles, one obtuse one, one acute one. I always want to pick the acute one. So how big is that guy going to be? Well, I know from here to here, I know from here to here is 180. And then to get to 240, I need to go 60 degrees more. Oh my gosh, my phone's ringing. Let me see who it is. Hang on. Okay. I have no idea who that is. It's probably a telemarketer. Okay. So my reference angle is 60 degrees and I'm in quadrant 2. So if you look at your chart, the tangent of 60 degrees, remember tangent's all the way on the bottom, 60 is all the way on the right. So that's just the square root of 3. And tangent in quadrant 2, so I got tangent of 60, and then tangent in quadrant 2, all students take calculus. Tangent there is negative, so this is going to be negative square root of 3. Okay? And again, you guys, if you want to do it the triangle way, you know that you're in quadrant 2. This is a 60 degree angle here. That's your reference angle. So that means that this one's 30 and this one's 90. Across from the 30 is a 1. Across from the 60 is a radical 3. Across from the 90 is a 2. And then this guy's going to be negative. And if you want to find tangent of 60 degrees, so here's your 60, right? Tangent is opposite over adjacent, which gives you that negative radical 3. Okay? All right, secant. Okay, I don't like secant, so I'm going to go the same as cosine of negative 3 pi over 2, but I need to flip that answer at the end, okay? So secant and cosine are flips of each other. So where is negative 3 pi over 2? Well, you guys, I know positive 3 pi over 2 is right here. That's 3 pi over 2. So if I want to go in the opposite direction, negative 3 pi over 2 would actually be up here. So I'm not in a quadrant anymore. I'm actually on an axis. So I need to look at what point is that. If I went up 1, that would be 0, 1. This is your cosine value. This is your sine value. So the cosine of negative 3 pi over 2 up here is actually 0. But what is the flip of 0? Well, remember, I can rewrite 0 as 0 over 1. If I flip that, I get 1 over 0, which ends up being undefined because we cannot divide by 0. Okay? All right, how about sine of negative 315? Again, you guys, this one was a little bit harder than what I gave you guys on the first review. Your quiz is somewhere in the middle. Okay, negative 315, I have to go in the opposite direction. So negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 315 is somewhere right there. Hey, this is good news. I'm in quadrant 1. What do I know about quadrant 1? All the answers are going to be positive, so I don't really have to think about that. Now, what's my reference angle? Remember, reference angle is formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. Always choose the acute angle. If this is 315, going from here to here is 315, then to get to 360, this guy then has to be 45 degrees. So this is the same thing as the sine of 45 degrees in quadrant 1. I know that the sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. In quadrant 1, I know that sine is positive, so it's going to be positive square root of 2 over 2. All right, cosecant of pi. Don't like that. Cosecant is the flip of sine, so let's just find the sine of pi and then flip that answer. Okay, now where is pi? Pi is right here. Again, notice I'm not in a quadrant, I'm on a axis. So I'm going to look at the point there, which is negative 1, 0. This is cosine, this is sine. So what is the sine of pi? The sine of pi is a big fat 0. If I flip 0, just like number 15, that ends up being undefined. A lot of undefines on this one. Okay, cosine of negative 3 pi over 4. Okay, so I'm going to count by 3 pi over 4 backwards. Ready? So this is negative 1 pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 4. If I kept going, this would be negative 5 pi over 4. This would be negative 7 pi over 4. But I am in quadrant 2 with a reference angle of pi over 4. Okay, so if you look at your chart, what's the cosine of pi over 4? The cosine of pi over 4 is the square root of 2 over 2. And then the cosine, that's not quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3. Silly me, I'm so sorry. And the cosine in quadrant 3, all students take, oh, look at that, we don't have a match, so it's negative. Okay? If you want to do that with a triangle, I'll show you how to do that too. Draw a triangle in quadrant 3. Okay, pi over 4 is a 45-degree angle, so this is 45. Across from a 45 is 1. Across from the other 45 is also 1. Across from the 90 is a radical 2. Okay, and then this is negative because you're going down. And it wants cosine, and cosine is adjacent. over hypotenuse. So that's 1 over radical 2, okay? And I'm sorry, I forgot another negative sign here. Negative 1 over radical 2, if you rationalize that, you're going to get negative radical 2 over 2. Okay, sine of 300, let's draw it out. Okay, so positive angle, so going up, this is 80, 90, 180, 270, 300, somewhere right here. So I am in quadrant 4. Now I just need to find my reference angle, which is formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. Okay, always take the smaller one. And again, if this is 300 degrees up to there, to get to 360, I need 60 degrees more. So I have a 60-degree angle in quadrant 4. So the sine of 60, okay, if you look at your chart, that's the square root of 3 over 2. And in quadrant 4, all students take calculus, only cosine is positive there, which means sine is negative. And then last but not least, don't like cotangent. Okay, let's change that to tangent of negative 120. But what do I have to do? I have to flip that answer at the end, right? So tangent of negative 120. So let's plot negative 120. This is negative 90. Negative 120 is like somewhere right there. Okay, let's find that reference angle. Again, I could tell right off the bat I'm in quadrant 3. This is my terminal side, x-axis. Always choose that smaller angle. So I've got negative 120 here, and I need to go 60 degrees more to get to that 180. So this guy's 60 degrees. So it's the tangent of 60 in quadrant 3. So tangent of 60, if you look at your chart, is radical 3. Tangent in quadrant 3, all students take T for tangent. Yes, it's positive. Okay? All right, almost done. These are the ones we were working on today. So these, I need to figure out what quadrants I'm going to be in. So I'm always going to start with all students take calculus, right? Okay, I want the sign to be negative. So let's see which quadrants that could be in. Okay, so sine is not negative in quadrant 1, so it can't be there. Sine is not negative in quadrant 2, so it can't be there. But the sign is, in fact, negative in quadrant 3 and in quadrant 4. So that's where my answers are going to be. And then, you guys, if you look at your little chart and ask yourself, okay, where is sine equal to radical 3 over 2? Okay, that's going to happen at pi over 3. So if I count by those pi over 3s, I'm going to get pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. And look, your answers are already highlighted. So it's going to be 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3 because it has to live in quadrant 1 and 2. Okay, 22 looks a little off. I don't like secant, so I need to take its flip. I know that the cosine of theta then is going to be the flip of negative 2, which is negative 1/2. Okay, now let's see where I'm at. I have all students take calculus, and I want cosine to be negative. Well, cosine is not negative in quadrant 1, and it's not negative in quadrant 4. So this has to live in quadrants 2 and in quadrants 3. Okay, and then if I look at my chart, where is the cosine equal to negative or positive 1/2? You can ignore the negative now. The cosine is equal to 1/2 at, again, pi over 3. So if I count by those pi over 3s, I'm going to have 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. And again, your answers are highlighted, so it's going to be these two guys. Okay? All right, number 23. Okay, I want tangent to be, this time, this is a positive answer. So all students take calculus. Tangent's positive in quadrant 1, and tangent's positive in quadrant 4. And where is tangent equal to radical 3 over 3? Well, that happens at pi over 6 if you look at your chart. So I'm going to have, counting by pi over 6 is pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. So the highlighted ones are your answers. And 24, where does sine equal negative 1? Hey, if you look at your chart, negative 1's nowhere on your chart. This means it has to be on an axis. So let's write those points out. This is 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1. This is your cosine, sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine. And here it's saying that they want sine to be negative 1. So I want to see where the s equals negative 1. And that's only down here, which would be at 3 pi over 2. Okay? And then last but not least, where is tangent undefined? Well, I don't really know about anything about undefined for my chart, but I know that tangent is sine over cosine, right? Sine divided by cosine. Now, what does it mean to be undefined? Well, that means that you're dividing by 0. Doesn't really matter what's on top, but you guys, pretty much that says whenever cosine equals 0, tangent's going to be undefined. So the question really translates into, where does cosine equal 0? So let's go ahead and look at it again. It's not going to be on your chart. There's no 0 there, but it is going to be on the axis here. So 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1, cosine, sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine. So it's asking, where is cosine equal to 0? I see that here, and I see that here. So that's going to be at pi over 2 and at 3 pi over 2. Okay? And that's it. And you guys, the quiz is only 15 questions long, not 25. All right? Have a good day. Bye.